And we're live with an awkward pause there at the beginning.
Yay for awkward pauses!
Yay! Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter, along with Sarah.
Hello.
Sliding in by our teeth, skin of our teeth on Friday morning.
The kids are home today. It's thrown everything off.
Yes, it does. It get a little discombobulated. I'm just trying to make my paper straight here for you, and my palette's in frame. We're white balanced. I think we're good to go. This video is brought to you by jerrysartorama.com. You can find the Turner watercolors I'm using, as well as watercolor paper and brushes. I'm using the Mimic brushes. Find all those wonderful supplies and pretty much everything else you need. I'm probably going to be using mostly the Mimic swirls, and the set that I have is actually the extra value set, and I get asked a lot about that. These are the brushes that come in it, so it's a pretty big variety here. I prefer these over the Mimic Kolinsky. The Mimic Kolinskys are just a little bit stiffer. So I think beginners might have an easier time with these, but I like these because they come to such a sharp point and they hold tons and tons and tons of water and paint. But either are great. Just depends on what your preference is. The colors we're going to use today, we're going to use a cool red. I'm using quinacridone rose, pigment violet 19. You could also use an alizarin crimson, any red that is slightly more purple. We're going to use phthalo blue. You could use Prussian blue if you don't have phthalo. We're going to use burnt sienna. You could substitute burnt umber if you don't have burnt sienna. We're going to use yellow ochre and sap green. And then I've just done some mixing, and it will give you quite a lovely variety of colors. And we're going to work wet into wet and then build up our layers as we go. So I guess we'll get to it.
Yes, let's get to it. Questions in all caps, please, everybody. It makes it easier for me to know what's chat versus questions. And are we sticking with just watercolor questions again today, Lindsay?
Yeah, let's try to keep it on topic.
Okay.
That way when people watch back later, then they're getting information that's relevant to this. But you guys in the chat can chat with each other about whatever you like. I'm going to start by wetting the background. I am going to go ahead and wet right over the kind of chain link fence area, but I want to keep the bird and this kind of column here, this little post, I want to keep that dry for the time being. So who do we have hanging out with us today, Sarah?
Jen K's here.
Wonderful.
Dominique Designs is here.
Great.
Valorie's here, and apparently she's going to be a grandmother today. She mentioned in the chat.
Congratulations.
So congratulations.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Gracie Shack is here, and apparently Joe Maskey's here. So he snuck in early, and it's his birthday today too. So happy birthday to Joe.
Beatles reference all around. We have Maxwell Silver Hammer and the birthday song.
Ian Jackson's here.
Wonderful. Yeah. Lots of friendly faces.
Oh, yes. Benny Chavez is here too.
Great.
He says hello. Pat Crochets. Whew.
Wonderful. Full house today.
Yeah, we got 223.
Wonderful.
Watching.
We're going to start off with some sap green, and we're just going to put a little bit. Remember, it's going to dry lighter, so don't be too scared of this color. I'm just putting some here and there. I'm working on a fairly smooth paper. I don't know if they still make this paper. I had been going through my big flat file of paper trying to use up some older stuff, and this is Canson 100, and there is a rough side and a smooth side, and I always liked this paper because I thought it was versatile, but I'm not sure if you can get it anymore, so I did put a link to Arches paper because I know that's always a reliable paper to go with. I'm going to grab some yellow ochre and add that in too. I was going to tape down all edges of my paper, but I was running a little behind this morning, so
it's fine.
It was like literally 10 seconds before 12:30, and I'm like, that's it. I just got to tape down some corners. I got one side done. It's like really shouldn't be that big of an ordeal, but
well, the kids being home really threw everything off.
Yeah. Yeah, they get a nice long weekend. Lucky them.
But they're all going camping, so you and Jason are going to have alone time.
No.
Whew, when's the last time that happened?
I don't think it ever has. 15 years ago. All right, I'm going to do some yellow ochre down here in the bottom part of the paper. And that's really yellow, so I think I'm going to go with add a little burnt sienna to that. Actually, before I put that on there, I think I'm going to take a little bit of the red and a little bit of the blue, those colors that I mentioned, the phthalo blue and the quinacridone red. Make myself a nice gray and water it down. I don't want it very dark, but this way I'm able to put all of our colors in right from the get-go. So we have all of these colors that we're going to be using integrated already in our picture. My apologies for the furnace. I don't know why it's on. It's such a beautiful day, but
it's heating some water.
It's probably
must be doing dishes upstairs.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they're doing some dishes and chores.
Jean Marie Warren, is there a kit you might recommend for newbies to watercolor?
Well, I don't know if I necessarily recommend a kit. I do like the Turner. Like, what I would probably recommend is get like a set of colors. They're sometimes cheaper when you buy them. Well, they're usually cheaper when you buy them in a set if that set has the colors you need. The Turner set of 18 is really good. It is back ordered for quite a while because they had a huge sale on it. But you could order those. Daniel Smith makes an essential kit, which is a warm and cool of each primary color, which is really good. And then I would get a palette that you like. This one is nice for teaching on camera because I can keep all my colors within sight, but generally I like even a larger palette that has wells all around the side. The Jones palette and the Pike palette are good examples of that. And it just helps. So I have this great big area to mix in the middle, and I kind of arrange my paint in like color wheel formation around it. And then, pick brushes that you like. For beginners, I generally recommend sticking with a synthetic, just because these ones, these are synthetic too, but they're meant to act like natural hair, and they hold so much water that that can be a little problematic for a beginner. And what I'm doing here is I'm just dabbing out any puddles I see because I don't want to have any weird backwashy blooms. And now I need to dry this before I can go on further. So that's what I recommend for beginners. And if you have questions while I'm heating this up, go ahead and fire away.
Gracie Shack, what kind of watercolor blocks would you recommend for a kids class at art?
Well, you probably want to find something fairly inexpensive. I have a tutorial on how to make your own, and I think you're probably not going to get much cheaper than that. But there's also Fabriano Studio, which is a very affordable paper that's 25% cotton. It's a nice quality for beginners. And I know Gracie's from the UK, so if anybody's from the UK and has a better suggestion, because I don't know what you have available that might be different than what we have, please go ahead and leave it in the comments. Because if that Fabriano might be more expensive over there, I have no idea. Or Cotman might, if Cotman is cheap in your area, you could go with that. You can see how the colors soften as they dry. Remember how bright they were, and now they're getting much more matte and soft looking.
Hindred, if you don't like a color, how can you remove it, and how do you choose the colors?
To remove a color that you don't like, if it's still wet, you can blot it with a dry paper towel. But if it has dried, you can brush over it with clear water and blot it, and repeat that until you've removed as much color. Some colors will stain and not remove very easily, but usually if I'm doing a background, I will purposely look for colors that will lift up easily, such as ultramarine blue, sap green, yellow ochre. Anything that looks earthy has larger sedimentary pigments that sit on top of the paper instead of absorbing in and staining the paper. So that's just kind of a good way to kind of remember it. The brighter the color, the more it'll stain generally. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is do some glazing on the bird. And when you look at a bird's feathers, like a blackbird or a crow or a raven or a grackle, you're going to see a lot of colors other than black. So those are the colors we're going to put in first. So I'm wetting the bird, everything but the beak and the eye, with just clear water. And you can see how that brush comes to a nice fine point there. And that's another thing I like about wetting the paper with these, because they hold so much water. I don't have to keep dipping my brush. I'm not going to wet the feet at this point either. I just want to wet the body. And I'm not going to worry about lifting out any of the spaces where the background went into the bird, because the bird is going to end up a really, really dark color. it's going to cover up any of that. So nothing I have to worry about.
People are asking about the heat gun again.
Yeah, it is a Marva. You tried a heat gun. You can totally use a hairdryer. There's no advantage of using a heat gun over a hairdryer with this. And in fact, some paints you do not want to use a heat gun with, like acrylics. Right? Yeah, oils might catch on fire.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, they need to dry through. They need time to dry. You can't speed up unless you're using Genesis oils. They actually, you can use a heat gun with them, but most oils, no.
What about the water-based oils?
Nope, you still need to let them.
Okay.
Yep. So I'm going right in with a phthalo blue. And right along the chest and the head with that. Get some on the tail. Remember, this is our under painting. We're going to be making our own black. We're going to be making a nice rich black by using the quinacridone red, the phthalo blue, and the burnt sienna. It's going to give us a nice transparent black. Now I'm going to mix a little quinacridone rose into that, get myself a nice purple. And we're going to add some of that in the other portions of the bird.
Patricia Glica, how is your light box working? I saw your light box review and was wondering.
Oh, it's excellent.
I was a little off press, but sometimes people trace and.
Oh yeah, totally. The thing I really like about it, so you do your sketch, right? And or maybe you have like maybe you have a pattern that you want to transfer, like you've printed a pattern off to paint. If you use transfer paper, a lot of times your transfer paper, even the ones that are meant for watercolorists, will have a little bit of a waxy residue. And then if you want to try to erase it, it doesn't want to erase as easily as like graphite would. And here you can trace as lightly as you want. You can see, you don't have to like peek underneath to make sure it's transferred. You know it's transferred. Yeah, it's really wonderful. It's I use it at least once a week.
Nice.
And I tip it up on its edge and lean it up against a shelf when I'm not using it, so it's not like laying out all the time.
Gracie Shack, what's your opinion on the aqua blends?
I did a review on them the other day. I like them. I think that, oh, actually, that was the color blends I reviewed. I like the aqua blends too. I think they're a wonderful pencil, and I think they're at a good price right now too. I don't know what I have going on here. I seem to have like a hair or something, or I don't want to scratch it, but I want to remove it. Whatever that is, dust or something. Ah, there we go. Okay, and then I'm going to do a wash on the this little metal post here, and I made that gray that we used in the background, and I'm going to start off with that and give it a nice coating. I'm going on dry paper. You can, if it's not too big of an area, you can do a smooth wash, wet on dry like this. Especially with a juicy brush.
Warrior Potato on a Unicorn. I like the name.
That's a very unique name.
I'm looking for an affordable professional brand of watercolors. What do you recommend?
These are Turners, and I'm really impressed with them. You can't get this quality at this price. Well, the intro set is very affordable, and per tube, it's very affordable. Some of the bigger sets, I don't know if they're quite as good of a deal as the intro set of 18 5-milliliter tubes. But if you're curious, you can always try a couple single tubes. If they come in 15-milliliter tubes, and they start at $3.25 a tube on sale. So it's really a great deal. And those are linked up in the video description if you want to check them out. I'm going to grab some burnt sienna and just kind of dab it in. But I do have a lot of watercolor reviews on my YouTube channel. If you want to just poke around, there's a whole playlist of them, and you can kind of see them in action and see what would suit you best too. So either way, I mean, there's so many wonderful paints out there. Everybody's personalities is a little bit different. I'm dabbing in this burnt sienna just to kind of make this look rusty. So I'm dabbing it right into the wet paint.
Benny Chavez, Lindsay, I'm sorry this is off topic, but I feel like I have to confess to you, I've been cheating on you with Cinnamon Cooney, the art Sherpa.
That's okay. We share really well.
I don't think that's cheating.
I'll share with Cinnamon. Sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring.
I'm gonna dab in some yellow ochre too. I want to give this a nice rusty look. And you'll notice that you're getting some little blooms and some like kind of pucking because we're going into a damp wash with wet paint. And I think that works really well here because we do want this texture of old metal. So it does give us kind of a rusty texture. I'm gonna go in with a little more burnt sienna in some of those little yellow ochre spots just to give it a little more variety of color too. Did you get your house decorated for Halloween yet, Sarah?
Oh yes, she's all falled up.
Awesome. All right, I gotta leave that alone before I overdo it because it's way too fun. That's way too fun to do that. I want to make some kind of like a darker gray rust, so I'm gonna go with the burnt sienna. I guess it would be more like oxidization rather than rust. Same colors though. So now I can see, well, this is way too green here, so I can go a little more burnt sienna, and it's gonna tone it down a little bit, but it's still kind of brown. So I'm gonna grab in some of that purple that I mixed, and that's gonna kind of negate the yellow in that brown. There's a lot of good variety with these colors. You just have to be careful with the intensity of like phthalo blue is such an intense color that it wants to kind of overtake things. Let's see if this is wet enough to get some of that pucking. I think it might be. I will have to blot a little bit though because that's pretty dark there. But it always dries lighter, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. Might as well just get some of this texture taken care of while we're right here in the first layers.
Laya Gafar, what's your best suggestion for a student grade paint that are affordable?
A Grumbacher Academy, I think right now, is the best quality. Cotman is still great. So is Van Gogh, but I think like when I put those three side by side, the Grumbacher Academy is really knocks my socks off. I think it's a fantastic deal, and it's pretty easy to find most places.
Diana Boss, can you explain neutral grays that are not muddy?
Well, if you mix your grays with what you have on your palette, you're going to get neutrals that match your painting, and they shouldn't be too muddy if you're mixing. Generally, you want to take the color that you're using and then add its opposite, and that will give you a nice neutral gray. So if I was so red, the opposite is green. If I add green and red together, I'll get a brownish gray, blue and orange, or sometimes blue and brown if the brown is kind of orangey. Just mixing your opposites. And I'm just fussing a little bit more with this, and then I'm going to go over to the chain link part and let this dry.
Jojo Bass Girl, or Base Girl, thanks for the advice last week about sharp background. I was afraid of wetting the paper too much.
Okay, so I'm going to mix up some more of that gray. So I'm going with the burnt sienna, phthalo blue, or burnt sienna, because again, I went overboard with the phthalo because that's such a strong color. And we'll add a little bit of crimson because look how green that looks. I don't know if that shows on camera. That's pretty green. So I'm going to add
very green.
Yeah, when I add a little bit of that quinacridone rose in it, that red's going to negate the green.
Penguino 45, which brushes are better, Aqualons or Mimic?
It depends. I think the Aqualons are a lot easier to use for a beginner because they don't hold so much water. But for an advanced painter, I think they would prefer the Mimics. I do like the handles on the Aqualons because they're very they're clear and you can scrape with them. So this nice dark kind of rusty brown, I am going in and putting in the kind of chain links on the chain link fence. I'm doing these bottom portions, and then I'm going to be adding more lighter color to the top portion. So I just want to get kind of the rusty areas. And if your painting extends down below where your sketch or your pattern is, just go ahead and continue the pattern. We're going to be doing quite a bit more to this, so don't worry. This is not how it's going to end up.
It's at the stage where you're like, what is going on with my painting?
Yep.
And then it will all come together.
It's at the hot mess stage.
The hot mess stage.
Purple, and I like to mix up my purples and then kind of add that brown to them, add some water to it till I get the shade that I'm looking for. Somebody's having a good time upstairs.
Somebody's laughing upstairs.
All right, so I'm going to blow out my brush because I have way too much paint here. You could switch to a smaller brush if you want to. Going in my grays.
Bugging out 45. Do you plan out all of your colors prior to painting, or do you sort of do it on the fly?
It depends. I usually try to use a limited palette, so I usually have a pretty good idea. Or if I'm doing it on the fly, once I've chosen a red, I stick with that red. And if I start to get into like 7 colors, then I know that's enough. If I'm doing like a live show, like a tutorial, I will plan that out ahead of time just so that I'm a little bit more organized, because I don't want you guys kind of having to wait for me to figure things out. I want to kind of have that figured out, but it doesn't take very long. And to give some texture, I'm just going to blot that and then let it dry the rest of the way. I have to hit this with a heat gun because it's not going to be dry quick enough. Is Chewy here today?
No, she's with John because he's on vacation.
Ah.
So supposedly the house is going to be all vacuumed and mopped by the time I get back from running errands. I got to do some Halloween costume shopping. So.
Oh, nice.
I got to go to Martin's and Walmart.
Nice. I just went to Martin's, got my fabric for my costume.
Well, that's what I'm going. I need some sort of burlappy, monk clothy. I'm going to be a voodoo doll. So I need to make
nice.
Like a rough dress. So yeah, I found it on Pinterest. It was like, that's gonna do it. So I need a wig so I can put some pins in my hair.
Oh yeah. Oh, cool. That does sound cool.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited. So, and John and I have just spent the last 4 or 5 days together.
Gotta get out of the house.
Use a few hours away from my loving, wonderful husband.
I've got some of that. I'm using a smaller brush. I've got a number 4 round because I don't want to carry too much. I'm working in such a small space. If I had that big brush, I could get in there on the tip of it and all, but I think I would carry so much paint that I would have more of a chance of just kind of overspilling. So I'm going to go in and do this lighter gray color on the beak. And I'm going to go over the whole beak, I think. And even these small brushes, I mean, there's enough paint in the bristles to do this whole beak without having to re-dip. So that's what's nice about them. You just have to be aware of it if you're not used to using brushes like this. And the eye, I need a very pale yellow. So I'm going to do my yellow ochre, but just super, super watered down.
Jen K. Lindsay, will you wear that costume you did the other day?
Oh, yeah.
What did you do the other day?
I made a cave girl.
Oh, well, I bet I haven't been on the internet the last couple days.
Yeah, I'm going to be a cave girl. It's very comfortable.
That's important, which is why I'm going to be a voodoo doll, because I'm like, I can wear some pants underneath it and some boots and, You
don't need to go on a crash diet before it. So, I mean, hey.
Yeah.
I'm doing some of that watered down yellow ochre also on the feet. Yeah, that's a really, really cool idea. Is John going to dress the same?
No, he found a costume at the Spirit of Halloween.
Yeah.
We had a coupon, so he found he really liked this costume, so he bought one.
Cool.
It's like I don't know, he's like a monster hood cape with a mask and a scary States.
Grim Reaper thing?
Yeah, it's kind of like a Grim
What are those
Reaper.
called? Size?
Yes.
Size?
Wow. I didn't sleep very good last night. That's going to be my excuse.
Sounds good to me.
I'm sticking to it.
Yeah,
I looked around and I couldn't find anything that matched it that I liked. So I went Pinteresting instead.
Yep. That works too. I'm making a really dark by mixing up a nice dark purple and then just adding touches of burnt sienna until I have negated the purple. So it does take a little bit of practice to balance that, but it does turn to a nice inky black. And it's a fairly transparent black because of the phthalo blue and the quinacridone red being the majority of the color. And that just, make sure you watch for beads. So this is full of this inky color. I might need to switch to a smaller brush, but I'm going to start with this and see how it does. And I'm going to start filling in some of the darker areas. I think this is going to be too big to do any detail though, but it is holding a lot of paint, so it's kind of nice. I think I'll start out here with this, and then I can go with a finer brush as I start to bring it out. I can get the eyeball in there too while I'm at it. Oh, actually, oh good, it was dry. That could have been unfortunate.
Or an excellent teaching opportunity.
Oh, that's right. Or a teachable moment. There are no failures.
That's right. There's only teachable moments.
You do not fail. You either succeed or learn.
So much chat right now. I'm trying to get caught, making sure I didn't miss any questions. We have 322 people watching.
Nice. Okay, I'm going to switch. I'm just going to get the side, like right up next to the eye painted, then I'm going to switch because I can't really pull out any detail with this brush. It's just holding so much paint that it's almost problematic at this point. So we will go, let's try this next one down. I think it's a number 2. Yep, it's a number 2. And yeah, I can do smaller. Well, I do need a little water. That's probably why. I think I might paint a little bit too thick there. It doesn't want to come off my brush. Oh, that's better. Hopefully, I'm going to try to keep my hand out of the way. I might have to tip my painting a little bit.
Oh, someone's singing. Connie Felton, Lindsay, off topic, but are you getting excited about Lifebook 2917?
Oh, yes. Lifebook 2017. I do have a link to that. It's open for registration now. Yes. So if you're interested in that, you can find out more. There's a link in the video description. It is a year-long art event. There are classes from 22 amazing mixed media teachers, a year's worth of inspiration, classes every week, at least one a week. I'm doing 2 classes during that time, but it's one price and you get all of the classes. And then at the end, you take all these art journal pages that you've made, all these paintings, and you bind them into a life book. And it's just really, really cool.
That sounds really, really cool.
Yeah, yeah. Over at Willowing Arts is where it's going to be hosted, but link right in the video description. And if you purchase it through that link, that does help my my channel. So I think I'm going to switch to a liner brush because I want those fine strokes, but I want to hold more paint. So because this has longer bristles on it, I'll be able to hold a lot more color. Can load that right up, almost like a pen. And then I'll be able to just keep pulling those colors out. I'm going to move my reference photo though, because I can't see it. Move my reference photo, not block the mic. So many requirements.
So much.
Quite an operation here.
Lisa Lund, will Lindsay be teaching on any other year-long projects?
That is the only one that I'm doing that's a year long. And I'm doing 2 of those. And I did Wonderlust last year.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that's too bad about that is that you can only register for that. I don't know how long registration's opening for Lifebook. I don't know if it closes on on July 1st, or if, on June 1st, or if you can, I'm sorry, gosh, January 1st, or if you can still get into it. But yeah, with like the Wanderlust, there's still classes coming out on that, but you have to have had joined by like July, I think.
Eternal Abbey. When I add details, my brush tends to lift the dry paint. Is that normal? What should I do? I use student grade paints.
That's probably why that's happening, because your student grade paints have more filler in them, and it doesn't let it bond to the paper quite as well. So you can try like letting it dry really well overnight before you go with your next layer, or drying it with a heat tool or hair dryer. And just use a really soft brush and be really gentle about it, because that's kind of why it's lifting up. Some papers are also more heavily sized, and they tend to do the same thing. They tend to make that problem a little bit worse. You want to make sure that your strokes go with the shape of the bird's body. So I wouldn't want to go straight up and down. I want to curve it, like get the curvature of the chest and the wings. Yeah, we'll just give it the movement and interest. And the reference photo is linked in the video description if you want to go check out what I'm painting from. It's kind of neat stopping and mixing every now and again, because you're going to get a slightly different black, and it will just have a little bit more of a liveliness to it. I'm going to switch to, I'm going to go back to this number 8 so I can get a little bit more paint. I want some bigger strokes here over by the wings. Mix up some more. Phthalo blue, quinacridone rose, and some of the brown. And you can fatten up a wing if you need to. Does anybody know who got voted off on Dancing with the Stars this week? I totally missed it.
I don't. I'm sorry. I don't watch Dancing with the Stars, but I'm sure somebody here watched Dancing with the Stars this week. And if you know the answer, please let Lindsay know.
Yeah, well, because I usually don't watch the whole Tuesday show when they eliminate people. And so I was on the treadmill, and then I see like, because I watch my YouTube videos on the treadmill, and I saw that Democratic debate was coming on, and I was like, oh no, they probably did a short Dancing with the Stars, and then I totally missed it. It's like, darn you, exercise.
Pam H says Vanilla Ice.
Aw. He was actually pretty good, I thought.
I didn't even know he was on Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah, he is. Well, was.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. I'm rooting for Mary Lou Henner. I really like her.
Mary Lou Henner. What?
Evening Shade, Taxi.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know who she is.
But Marsha Brady. What's her name?
Marsha Brady?
She's on it. She's pretty good, actually.
Oh, and Glenda Hoagland says Babyface 2, it was a double elimination.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know who Babyface is.
Babyface, R&B star from the 90s. I remember from like high school dances.
No, 90s is when I started getting into my metal and hardcore.
She's definitely not metal and hardcore. And he still has quite a baby face too. I mean, he doesn't look.
Hence the name.
I know, he does not look that old. Neither does Vanilla Ice. He looked very young.
Oh, did he?
Yes. I was like, because he's older than I am. Because I remember when Ice Ice Baby came out.
I do remember that. It was a big deal.
Yeah. I think he has like a show on the Home and Garden thing now.
Oh, that's right. He does. Doesn't he like flips houses or something?
I don't know. I haven't seen it, but I think I heard that he does.
I don't have cable, so I don't know who has what for TV shows.
Yeah, I don't either. If it's on Netflix, I have no idea. I know, it's crazy.
I refuse to pay. I refuse. I don't like commercials, and I refuse to pay for the 4 channels. I refuse to pay $100 for 4 channels that I essentially are the ones that I watch.
Well, because that's the thing, you're paying in. There's commercials on cable. Unlike YouTube, which you get it for free, and but there's commercials.
Exactly.
I'm smoothing this out because I got a little rough with my lines there. Adding a little bit of another glaze of the blue up here because I just feel like it needs a little more color after I've gotten the darker color, and you have to adjust your values sometimes. This paper is really buckling, so maybe I wouldn't recommend that Canton 100. Maybe that's why it's not available anymore.
They decided to just...
Yeah, it's really buckling a lot. But I've only got the corners tacked down because I didn't have time. I guess I could stretch it. I'm kind of lazy though. I should really think about that. I'm doing a little magenta kind of on its own up here. I feel like it's got a little bit more red in that area. All right, I think that layer is good enough for now. And I'm going to skip over and work on, oh, that's got a little glare. I'm just going to tip that so you can kind of see what we've got there. Pretty dark. There's not a lot of definition in it at this point.
That's okay.
Yeah, we're going to move over here, and I am going to grab some of the burnt sienna, which is actually got a little bit of the phthalo blue in it because it's kind of grungy there, which is fine. I'm going to grab a little bit more of that actually. And I am going to give a shadow on this side of this little metal post. And I'm going to get some rust painted in there. Right along the edge. It's kind of worn off, like the whatever the protection on the post is worn off, and there's some rust on there.
Pinguino 45. Should I get the Schminky or Mission? I'm trying to upgrade to professional watercolors. They are the same price, except Mission has more colors.
If they're the same price, get the Schminka.
The Schminka?
Yeah.
The A-E is an A when you would pronounce it.
Yeah, it's weird. And I've heard some people call it Schmink, but I think Schminka is the proper pronunciation. But yeah, I'm going to be reviewing those soon. I need to paint with them a little bit more. I've been waiting for them to dry out in my pans so I can paint with them because I prefer to work from dry pans, and I like to have my examples to be from the dry pans. That way I know I'm comparing kind of apples to apples, but I think that they're more light, faster, high quality paint. I like the Mission Gold and all, but if they're the same, but I like Mission Gold because of the deals you can get on them. I think if the money's the same, get the Schminka. I bought Halloween candy and hid it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. So I'll be ready. I won't have to rush out the last minute, but
that's good.
Hid it so it'll last. As long as I don't forget where I've hid it.
Oh,
hidden
well,
it, since somebody else knows. Yeah. Doing a little darker on each side of this metal post here, just to give it a little bit of roundness.
Carol Moore, what do you do for the buckling of the paper?
If it's really bad, I will iron it. I'll put like some copy paper on each side, so there's nice clean like surface against the front and the back, and I just iron it. And if it's really bad, I will spritz it with water and then iron it on the back. Don't spritz the front because you'll ruin it, but you can spritz the back. Generally that only happens if I'm doing like mixed media on like cheaper paper, but nice and flat, it's easier to matte and frame. But, do that at your own risk. I don't want anyone ruining anything. Okay, and now we can skip over here and get some shadows on the on our little wire, chain link wire portions here. And I'm just going to kind of go around and pick away at these different little pieces, putting mostly like a dark line. With something like this, it could go either way. The back links are a little bit darker in the reference photo, but you could actually, because it's kind of got a lot of twists and turns, you pretty much just need your lines to separate the different pieces of wire. So just try not to outline the entire thing. If you're going to do a line, just do it on one side of whatever you're outlining. Don't outline, just like maybe do like a line under the twist, each twist, and go along one side of the link. Try not to overdo it because that's going to look really fake.
Rajashri Ghosh. Hi, Lindsay. Was using my Senlier paints yesterday. I noticed it doesn't flow as much. Do you notice that with yours?
Yeah, they do seem not to run so much as they do stay where you put them. I'm thinking that could be part of just the style of paint, because the paint is better for kind of doing even glazes and even washes. So I think that's probably part of the makeup of the paint. I don't think they have the wetting agents in them that some more modern watercolors have. Like I think the Mission Gold have a lot of wetting agents in them that make them kind of like burst when you touch the paper. I think they add additional like oxgall or detergent to those. And those are different tips I picked up from Rich Bowden on his channel about why some paint acts the way it does. And some things that some companies do to kind of get a wow factor and keep the price down. I don't think they have as much wetting agents. If you do want that effect, you can add oxgall or something, but I kind of like them for glazing, so I just kind of keep them as they are and use them with their best characteristics. Mixing up some more black, which I pretty much had on my palette.
Pam H. If the paper buckles, is it okay to just put it in a frame and have it flatten out that way? Oh, sure.
Sometimes you know right off whether it's going to flatten off or not. I think once you frame it, if it still is buckling against the mat, then you could take it off the mat and try ironing it. So I'm doing a line to separate the two portions of the beak, and then I'm going to put a shadow on the bottom of the bottom half of the beak.
Coneo Pestilente. Question, why don't you use softbox lamps instead of regular ones? It doesn't reflect light in the paintings.
I find that it cuts, because the ones I have are like the umbrella diffusers. I don't have room for stands downstairs, but I do have the umbrella diffusers, which I could use, but it cuts the light down too much that I feel like I'm not getting as bright of a light on my picture. And what kind of operation do you think I'm running here that I got soft boxes all over the place? Seriously, I've got clothespins and aluminum clamp lights holding this whole operation together.
Some spit.
I got a couple tin cans and some string.
Some spit.
And some spit, some gum.
Desiree, did you ever try the Van Gogh paint?
Yes.
They're on sale in my local craft store in a traveling box, and I wondered if they are worth it.
Yeah, they're great. I did a review on them. It's on my channel. I did a couple weeks ago. Oh, I just dropped water on there.
Oh, it's a learning lesson.
And I want to do a little bit of the rose color on top of the beak, because I feel like I see that reflecting there. Okay, and the bird is still pretty wet. I think I can come down and work on the feet though. So again, I'm kind of using this murky dark color with a little bit heavier of the burnt sienna, but it's pretty much whatever that dark that I've been mixing. And I am going to start to paint these little kind of hairline ridges that are on the feet.
Lie by, are there general rules for an interesting composition?
They're called like the elements of design and elements of style. If you look those up, you can probably find like an infographic that's got them all printed out. That you can just
thirds.
Yep, there's a rule of thirds, rhythm, repetition, keeping things in odd numbers. There's lots of different rules, and you can break them. I mean, it's just you want to have a few of these elements in. It just helps it look a little bit nicer. A little bit of quinacridone rose and brown for a little bit of a warmer brown there. But yeah, I would search the elements of design and elements of style, and I would print it, and then you could just refer to that while you're painting. That way you can kind of start yourself off with a strong design.
Noah Murphy, any suggestions for affordable artist grade watercolor paints and paper, and should it get 140 or 300 pound?
I usually just get 140 pound. Usually if you tape it down, you're good. You can stretch it if it wants to buckle on you. But the 300 pound, you're paying for the convenience of it. It's not really a better paper. It's more just you're getting the convenience of having a heavier weight paper. And for me, I don't think it's worth the additional price, which can be more than double the sheet price. So I would recommend Arches or Fabriano. Those are my two most used and favorites. I'm highlighting a little bit here. I'm going to lift because these are all kind of earthy colors. They'll lift pretty easily. I want to lift out a highlight in the middle. And you just kind of have to look around and see what you have available, because depending on where you live, different things are going to be different prices. Like someone just said they could get Schmincke for the same price as Mission Gold. Well, get the Schmincke, but around here they have that Mission Gold set of 36 colors for $57 on Amazon. I mean, you really can't beat that. So just depends on what you have locally. Turner is great at Jerry's because it's an artist quality and it's very affordable. There, I like that a little bit better with that kind of highlight lifted out. I think I want to do a little bit of one at the top there too, to kind of break it apart from that other little column we have.
Gail Gasson, do you like the Daniel Smith or Senlier paints better?
Personally, I like the Daniel Smith better. I like most of them are very granulating, and I like that. I haven't used a Selenier as much, so kind of consider that with my opinion. That I really like the texture that you can get with the Daniel Smith. Speaking of texture, this old acrylic brush that I've been using for scrubbing, I can spread those bristles apart and dry brush some texture onto this metal too, which is kind of nice. It gives you another kind of interesting effects. Don't throw away your old brushes, because those often can just give you really cool effects.
Mo M, between Schmincke or Daniel Smith, which would you choose?
I don't think I like Daniel Smith a lot for their texture qualities. They do have nice colors too. I haven't used a Schmincke enough to say definitively. So I'll have to get
maybe on sale or more readily available.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I love the fact that Daniel Smith is made in the USA. Schmincke is German made, but the Germans are well known for their fine art supplies. I don't know. It's a tough one. That's a tough one. I'm going to grab a little yellow ochre and add that to the chain links. It's just feeling really heavy and dull there. So,
Brenda Collins Deeks, will a round number 2 brush work as well as a liner brush for the feathers? I find it easier to control a round brush.
Sure.
Oh,
use whatever
Rich is here, the spin doctor. He got here late today.
Oh, hello, Rich. Good to have you.
And John Cooney is here as well.
Oh, wonderful.
That earlier, trying to get caught up with the question.
I'll tell Jeffess to cheating on me with cinnamon. All right, I think that warms things up a little bit. I also think I want a little of that yellow ochre on this side of the middle post. And I want a little more yellow in the eye. It's just a little bit too bland. I'm going to do a little bit of that.
Penguino 45. Whenever I do a painting, the colors always look too busy. What can I do?
Limit your palette. If you're looking busy, see how many colors you have. If you have over 5, that's probably why. Pare it down to 3 colors and see how it looks after that. I need to lift a little bit more color out of the beak there. It's just a little too dark, I can tell now. Oh, that had a bead on it.
Lie by, are different burnt sienna brands less neutral? Some seem to mix greener.
Yes, yeah, Mission Gold is very green. I prefer burnt siennas that are made from PBR7 pigment, but a lot are also PR101. The PR101s are going to be way redder, it seems like. But sometimes there's mixes and they have black in them, and I try to avoid them because they tend to do some weird, they tend to get like extra yellowy when I mix them out for some reason. That's why I kind of avoid buying a burnt sienna that's a mix. I want either a PR101 or a PBR7 because I know I'm going to get a consistent result from those. But yeah, good observation. That's totally the case. I think the Van Gogh burnt sienna, and I didn't buy it for this reason, is a weird mix.
Noah Murphy, how do you feel about Winsor & Newton paints? Those are pretty affordable at my local Hobby Lobby in comparison, but I've heard mixed reviews.
If they're pretty affordable, then I wonder if they're talking about the Cotman line. That Winsor & Newton's paints are good. I find them to be, where I live and with what I have available, I find them to be overpriced compared to what else I can get. It's not the same case for everybody everywhere, but that seems to be the case in America. I find that I get much better deals on higher quality paint from other manufacturers, but they're good. The Cotmans are a wonderful student grade because they're reliable and you can get them pretty much everywhere. But I mean, their professional line does not knock my socks off. There's nothing wrong with them, but I just think for the price that they charge over here for them, there's just so many better options that you can get for much less money.
Carol Moore, when I use wet gum tape to tape down paper, it sticks to the painting. What am I doing wrong? Nothing.
It will stick to the painting. What I do is, like, if I was taping down this picture, I would cut the picture off on the other side of the tape, and then I tear the tape off and soak my board to get it off. It does. You're not going to remove it very cleanly from the paper. So I just allow for that in the margins of my design and I cut it off. All right, we need to do a little bit more to this bird here. And I'm going to stick with this number 4 round and see how far I can get. I've got this, I taped this too. It was a very last minute trying to get ready for the show today. And I just grabbed the first board I could find to tape this down to. And it's a little big, so there may be some awkward painting moments here, but I will do my best to hold it together for you folks.
That's why people love us, because it's awkward sometimes. It happens. Steph 13, what colors should I use to try a new palette? Beginner's mode.
I would use a warm and cool of each primary. So I would do like a quinacridone rose or an alizarin crimson. And then I would do a cad red or a pyrrole red, something, a warm red. And I would do 2 blues. I do like a phthalo blue like we're using here and an ultramarine. You can use Prussian if you don't like phthalo. It's a little bit earthier. I want to pull a few little feathers, just kind of out like this. And then I would do a cad yellow and a lemon yellow, and then probably burnt sienna and yellow ochre, and then maybe a sap green. I do love sap green. It's a very convenient color to have on your palette. But if you want basic, then just cut out those. Just do the 6 primaries. Now I'm going to alter my color a little bit more blue. My brush of blue and just kind of pick up that other color that I had going.
Noah Murphy, what would be a better option for affordable artist grade paints? Sorry to ask so much about these.
Another option,
affordable option for artist grade.
The Turner is good. Mission Gold is affordable here. I don't know about anywhere else. If anybody has any advice, pop them into the chat. I don't know. Did he say where he's from?
He didn't say where he was from, no.
Because the prices can vary so much. And I hate to like recommend something and then have it be completely not affordable at all where they are.
Carrie King, I just ordered the Cotman Studio palette. Where would I find the pigments that are used in this?
Online on the Winsor Newton website. If you've thrown away the little wrappers that came around your paints, just go on the Winsor Newton website. You might be able to read it. I did take a picture of my swatch, I think, when I reviewed them on my blog. But I don't know if they'd be big enough to read because I just taped down I kept the wrappers and taped them down. Those suckers are so small. I don't know how they expect people to read those. I feel like an old lady now. I can't.
Bev Roberts, do M. Graham paints ever dry? I set up a palette 2 days ago, but they are still wet.
They take a while because they have honey in them. I'm finding the Schmincas take a long time to harden up in the pans. I've been waiting for them to harden up for like a week and a half because I want to paint with them, but I prefer to have them dry. This is very riveting. We're just building up layers, kind of like when we did our Blue Jay feather a couple weeks ago. So hope it's not too tedious. Just keep firing your questions at us and we'll help you along. Love the phthalo and the rose.
Noah Murphy is from North Carolina. I'm a girl. My mom can be blamed for the male name.
I am sorry.
Okay, so she is in the United States.
Okay.
So that helps as far as a decent priced, affordable artist grade paint.
Yeah, well, you know what? What I'm using today is Turner, and I use them quite a bit. So if you want to go back on my channel, on the live streams, I usually use Turner. If you want to look and see what you think of those colors that are in the introductory set, because that's what I usually use. I did add quinacridone rose to this this palette that didn't come with the it didn't come with that color. See what you think of those. If you like the results that I'm getting with those, then consider the Turner ones. They are back ordered. They had a really big sale on them last weekend, and they're back ordered. Last time I checked, they were back ordered into December, but you can get the individual larger tubes. But like the really good sale that they do an 18 set for, it's normally like $30, list price is like $150, and then they had it marked down to like $19. That's one that's out of stock. But I've been really pleased with these. They haven't let me down. I don't know if they wear down quicker. I'm trying to figure that out because I've been using these for about a year, this set here, and this is all the paint. I've squeezed out whatever I had left. So all the tubes are in my palette, what's left of them. So I think that's pretty good. I mean, for, you know, $30 to paint for a year, a couple times a week, I don't think that's very fast wearing, but I mean, I don't know. I think some paints might, like Daniel Smith, might wear a little bit slower. So you might get a little more pigment in those, but they're a lot more expensive. Like for that same $30, you'd only get 6 5-milliliter tubes of Daniel Smith in one of their in their introductory set. So, I mean, if you got $30 to spend, either of those would be a good choice. I just think your money goes a little bit further with the Turners. But I do have a lot of reviews on my channel. I would check them out and see what you're drawn to when you look at the examples that I do with the different paints. See what you think. You might be happy with a Van Gogh, and you might even be able to get that at your local big box craft store with a coupon. So that's what I recommend, because everybody has different opinions and personalities when it comes to paint.
Well, you say too, sometimes buy a few tubes
on
sale of a couple of different brands and try them and see how you like. So that's another option, because especially around college towns at the start of the semester, they always have paints on sale. Yes,
good point.
Charity D, is that the final wash on the background for this painting?
Oh yeah, I'm not going to do anything else to the background. That's just soft and out of focus. I'm going to be leaving that like that.
Azabi Live, do you scan your work, your best stuff? Do you just use a home scanner or professional?
I don't scan it. I photograph it. I have a pretty decent camera that I use just for photographing art. And honestly, a lot of times I just photograph it with my camera phone and call it good. But if it was something that I was doing for a client or something that I really would hate to lose, because I pretty much sell everything, then yeah, I would photograph it and save it as a high resolution TIFF, and then completely forget where I store it and never look at it again. But
Well, there's a lot of stuff in here,
I'm quite prolific.
It's Katie McGetty, soft and out of focus. Sounds like my weekend. That could be your weekend too, Lindsay.
Yes.
You can have a few cocktails this weekend because the kids are going to be out.
Let me get those kayaks out.
Oh, that'll be lovely.
It's supposed to be nice.
It is. Penguino45, have you used koi watercolors?
I've used the pans. I haven't used the tubes. I like the pans for like plein air painting. I don't know as to the quality of the paint. I don't know how readily it will fade, but I do enjoy them. I think than or Van Gogh or even the Prima watercolors, but for the money, they're a good idea. They're a good value too if you can get a good deal on them. I know the big box stores have them for $30, but you can use that 15% off coupon. So if you pick that up for $15, for under $20, I'd say it's a good deal for under $20. I don't think they're as good as the Prima ones. They're kind of a good steal, but again, you don't know what's in them. So that's a thing. That's a thing. I would say, you're gonna have fun and you're gonna learn how to paint with the Primas and the kois, and it's not gonna harm that at all. Stuff might fade, but the thing that is unfortunate is that you're not gonna know what's in the paint. And I mean, even if you don't trust a company's light fast ratings, if you know what's in the paints, you can make a pretty informed decision, but you just don't know what's in those paints. And when you shop at a store, and I don't want to sound like I'm beating a dead horse, but Jerry's, I love Jerry's. You're going to see what's in the paint. You can click on the little manufacturer's information and you can see what you're buying. So you can know whether you're getting a good deal or not, because you know what's in the paint. Not that you should let knowing what's in the paint, spoil your fun. You should paint. It doesn't matter what you have for paint. You're not going to be a good artist just because you own all kinds of expensive paint. You're going to be a good artist because you paint. But knowing what you're paying for is going to keep you from getting ripped off and keep you from buying the same thing twice.
Lorraine and Brian Van Hetteren. I was told that pour paints do not mix with other brands. Is that true?
No.
It's a lie. It's a dirty lie.
They have a different binder, but that binder is actually used by art conservators. So it is designed to be able to work with other things. I've never had a problem mixing them either. I love the core paints. They're another good deal if you get the introductory sets. They're a pretty good price. And they come in really nice little tins that I love. All right, I overlifted there. So I think I'm going to go into some color. Even though it doesn't show on my reference photo, I feel like I would really like, because red's my favorite color, I think I'll get a little bit of that rose in there.
Kendall McCauley. Hi, Lindsay. What tips do you have for determining what colors to use?
Well, if I have a reference photo, I kind of look at what I have and I think what economy of colors can I use? Oh gosh, I just went outside of the lines. What economy?
Learning time.
I think, how can I paint this with an economy of colors? And so I don't want to have redundant colors. I want every color to have a distinct purpose. And I kind of will edit down until I have just what I need.
Benny Chavez. Lindsay, do you title your paintings, and how important is the title to selling a piece?
I usually don't title them. And I don't know if it really makes any sort of importance for realistic art. Maybe for abstract art, because you kind of got to prove what your painting is, what it is. But I don't really think it's that important. Not that I sell my paintings for a lot of money, but I don't really think it's that important. I could be wrong, though. I mean,
it could be the area you were trying to sell your art in. I would imagine some places it would be important.
Yeah, I would think so too.
Less.
Yeah, especially if it's like, hoity-toity people would want they'd want
hoity-toity.
They don't want a fancy name on there.
They want to know they're paying for real. So it needs a title. Joe Maskey, any tips on how to get light camera effects in watercolors such as bokeh?
Probably spattering on a damp background. Spatter, my favorite. What?
You know how Rich loves?
Oh, Rich can handle it.
He's a big boy.
I'm gonna see if I can fill in the little spot where I missed a little background color over there. Hope the background noises aren't bothering anybody. I don't think I'm crazy about this paper. I used to think I loved it, but now I'm thinking.
Now after years of experience, you're like,
I'm like, oh, it's really buckling. Let me just dry this because I think I want to do a little bit more on the bird, and then I think I'm gonna call it done.
Shauna X, what brand of watercolor do you use to refill your palette?
You can use any brand of watercolor. These are all Turner colors, but like if I needed sap green and I was out of Turner sap green, I would use any brand of sap green that used the same pigment. That way, if I go back in with the Turner stuff, I know that I'm not adding different pigments to it.
Grace Glosser, what's the best travel watercolor set in your opinion?
Oh my gosh, that's a tough one because there's so many good ones. I like the Selenier just because I find it impossible to overwork a piece with a Selenier kit that I got. And that was like, they have a deal going where you buy a 12 kit, but you actually get 6 free pans in that, and it's on sale for like $60 at Jerry's. They might be back ordered. I'm not sure, but that's kind of nice. I find that I can keep layering and layering and it doesn't get muddy, which is good if you're, out and about painting. I'm glazing on some more of that phthalo blue because I want more of that iridescence.
Steph 13, what info should I put on a painting besides signing it and where?
I just sign mine. I don't really put anything else on there. I might slide a business card in the clear bag I slide it into after I've matted it, but that's all I put on them.
Patricia Glika, do you have any tips for using the Daniel Smith watercolor sticks? They seem very hard to wet.
I recommend you cut them into a piece that will fit in your palette or a pan because they're not good for drawing. They're too soft and gummy when you try to draw with them. They're definitely best used as watercolors. Tip it to get away from the glare there. I'm definitely at the hot mess stage of this bird. I'm just like, oh.
No, he's getting there. He's getting there. You can see the looks iridescent-y sheen.
I'm very tempted to grab some iridescent watercolors right now. Like, let's just make quick work of this. I think I'll skip over, do a little bit more to the fence, and then actually, I bet if I put a little bit of that phthalo blue into the fence, really kind of watered down, get it in some of the gray areas, that would kind of look. Oh yeah.
Kay Burns, where can I find more pans of the Sennelier so I can fill my palette?
Most art supply stores should carry them online, like Jerry's. You can also buy tubes and fill empty pans. Empty pans are hard to come by, and the only place I've really found them for a decent price, because they're like out of stock everywhere, has been Jackson's Art Supply in the UK, but they do ship reasonably. You can go through Amazon. I don't know what their shipping is if you go through their store. You might have customs to deal with, but I didn't have any customs or anything when I ordered on the American Amazon site, and they were very reasonable. They were the cheapest I could find anywhere. But yeah, I think their pans run about $5. The full pans of Selenier paints on American websites on sale are usually around $5. So they're not crazy expensive, which is kind of nice. That's half pan size.
The Spin Doctor. Is there a decent pearlescent medium for watercolor? A bit hooked on acrylic ones right now.
Winsor & Newton makes one. I think it's buried in a drawer at this moment, or I'd be reaching for it. All right, I think that, let's give this one more dry. And I think we'll be about done here.
Charity B, what do you do when you get to that hot mess point in a painting? Continue or just consider it done and walk away?
Well, if I wasn't doing a tutorial, I would take a break and I would come back and look at it later. But I'm going to force through on this because I don't want to leave you guys hanging. So I'm going to lift a little bit where I feel like it's gotten a little too dark. The reference photo I'm working from is very dark, so I probably should have gotten an additional reference photo just for the coloring. But it was kind of one of those last minute weeks here.
Rhonda McGee
over there.
My 7-year-old granddaughter loves art. What watercolors would you suggest I buy for her?
For her age, Marie's is a good choice. They're very inexpensive and non-toxic. They do have a bit of an odor to them. I'm not exactly sure why. I've noticed that in some paints that are they're from China, but they're supposed to be non-toxic. They're sold in on American websites, so I would think they have to conform to our standards. And you can find them at Ocean State Job Lot if you have one of those, and they're like $5 or $6 for a set of 12. So very affordable. And that way they can work from the tube, get that kind of really bright color payoff, and it's not very expensive if they go through them fairly quickly. I also like Prang. Here, my goodness.
Oh boy.
I'm using a liner brush with that nice dark black that I mixed, which is again the quinacridone rose, the phthalo blue, and the burnt sienna. And I'm refining any darkest darks, and I'm tipping this up so I hopefully don't make a mistake, make a mess. I feel like I need to fatten up the neck here.
Rhonda McGee. Oh, I asked that one. Never mind. Sorry. Connie Felton. What would be an approximate price for the painting you're doing now?
Generally, ones like this size, I charge $35. But I mean, it depends on where you live. Sometimes you can get a better price if you live in a more touristy area or a more affluent area. I paint so much that I kind of price it to move.
Rich says the smell of Eastern paints is the artificial binders that they use.
Interesting. I wonder what the artificial binders are. If it's not gum arabic. Because I think it says it uses gum arabic on the package. And it does once the paint dry in a palette, the smell goes away, but they do shrink. I'm going to use you can use a gel pen, but I'm actually going to use a craft knife to just cut out a little bit of a highlight in the eye in a moment. So if you want to try that, you can get a little craft knife ready.
He says it's gum arabic padded out with other things. We'll post a list later on in the comments.
Oh, thank you, Rich.
Yes.
Appreciate that. But they make a big deal about saying their paints are non-toxic and suitable for children. So that's what made me think of them first as far as an option. Darkening up this back wing there. And a little bit of shadow underneath wing would be, and put a highlight in there because I couldn't really tell with the reference photo that I was using. But if that looks too far over to you, you can of course adjust it to your liking. I'm just putting in a few strokes to indicate feathers. And at this point, this is really dark because of all the layers of the transparent color that we've used. So any sort of adjustments we do here are going to be pretty subtle. And I kind of feel like I want something, I feel like I have this really soft focused background, and I have this really hard foreground. So I think I'm going to put a few strands of wheat in here because it just seems way too, I'm going to use my liner brush. Just feels way too hard and stiff here. I want a softer influence. So I am going to just freehand in a couple kind of stalks of tall grass. I want this one to end up around here, so I'm just gonna, and let's do 3 since we know that's visually pleasing.
The rule of thirds.
Mm-hmm. And then I'm gonna do the little dabs there. And maybe grab a
Benny
brush.
Chavez, could you demo iridescent media on this piece? I'm interested in seeing how you would use it.
Well, you know what? Tell you what, I will, if you guys don't mind, do you guys mind just hanging out like 10
more minutes,
10 more
people?
minutes?
The people have 10 more minutes. I bet people have 10 more minutes.
I was going to throw a couple little blades of grass in there. I just feel like it needed
little
something, but let me just see. I'll have to see. Hopefully I know exactly where it is. Can I scoot right in front of you?
Scoot.
Okay.
She's scooting, people. She's scooting. She's going to her drawers.
Oh, I think I have to stick this.
Pulling out her drawers, folks.
Got
To
it.
find iridescent.
Oh boy. Okay, let me just blast this real quick. I hopped up so quick.
People are hanging out. People are hanging out.
Oh, I like the grass on there. I think that softens it, gives it a little bit more.
Yeah, people will wait 10 more minutes. So do it.
What I did was
Frida.
I took some of my Winsor Newton iridescent medium out of the container it came in,
Frida,
because I like to have a dropper top. And this is just like a baby medicine bottle, so it tells you how old this is. My kids are like 14 and 12. So yeah, so I used to save the little children's Tylenol things. I'm just gonna put it in a space I'm not using for anything else. Just a little drop of it. Oh, it's gotten a little chunky, so hopefully it's all right. And it should be. I think it just has gum arabic as a binder. So I'm just gonna mix it up there good with my brush, make sure it's not gonna be chunky.
Oh, excuse me.
And then I think I'll just add it to this purple color over here. Now, iridescents are a little strange by the fact that once you frame it under glass, you're really not going to see it that much, so it can be kind of a bummer. But if it's on the picture itself, it's going to reflect and look kind of cool.
And Christmas card season is arriving.
Oh,
so
yeah, really good for that. So let me grab a little bit on its own too, because I have so much pigment on there. I don't think I even really need to mix it on the palette. I'm just going to keep your strokes though going with the direction that you've been doing all along, because it's going to catch the light. In that, the strokes are going to catch the light, and you don't want it to have something that doesn't match what you've been painting all this time. Yes, since I have so much pigment on that, it's just going to mix in with what I already have, so that works.
From the screen here, you can see that you're.
Oh wow, like you can't you? Hopefully, this is helpful to you guys. I wouldn't do this like the blue jay feather that we did the other day. I wouldn't do it on that, because you would kind of cover up all of the iridescent quality that you painted with paint, would kind of be covered up. I think I should have mixed that bit a little bit more in my palette, because it is a little thick, but. Look at that. I didn't know where it was after all.
It was meant to be.
It was, I guess. Was that Benny that suggested that?
It was. Good job, Ben.
Benny.
I assume he likes to be even called Ben. Maybe he does not.
Benny asked me I did a video on my cave girl costume, and he asked me if my neighbors knew what I did for a living, so they'd hate to see me be committed because I had shot one of the the scenes outside.
Oh, well, they saw you as the voodoo witch doctor.
Yeah, but at least that was on Halloween day. So.
That's true, yeah. Well, but Halloween is only really a couple of weeks away.
That's
so
true.
It's not totally crazy.
Actually, you know, I think I'll use iridescent in the eye and then not carve the Oh, I got too much though. Yeah, I should have mixed that up a little bit more because it's a little blobby. But
Benny Chavez, would this not be considered traditional watercolor after the iridescent media?
Yeah, that would pretty much negate that if you were doing it, putting it in a competition. But you know, usually see those rules ahead of time when you're painting for something like that. So yeah, I wouldn't do that in competition work. I'm adding some rose to that big glob of it up here on the top of the head because it's just a little too bright. And the nice thing is you can actually glaze your color on top of the iridescent medium, and then you get that extra sparkle of the light passing through the veil of color and then through the iridescence. And then I mean, I don't know how much further it's going to go back to the paper because we have so many layers of paint there, but we get a cool cool sheen there, especially only if you're using a transparent paint like a phthalo blue. That's such an ultra transparent paint. You can play with it until you have it just to the level of sheen you want. I'm not sure if I'm crazy about that on the beak, but for some reason I feel the need to stick bright phthalo blue paint on that beak every single time I go near it. I don't know what's wrong with me there. Teachable moment.
Teachable moment.
In case you haven't had that lesson 5 times already in this.
Some days are nothing but teachable moments. I've had those days before.
Oh.
For example, John and we ran a bunch of errands on Tuesday. He dropped and broke a light bulb right out of the package.
Oh no.
And then a couple hours later, I dropped a light bulb and broke it. So it was like, maybe we should just not touch
light bulbs. Yeah. All right, I feel like I need maybe just a little bit of the iridescent medium on the tail since I've used it in so many places here. Just touch it right here where maybe it would be catching a little bit of light. I wouldn't want to put it like underneath the feet because that's where it would be the most shady area. I want to kind of get it where the light would catch it. But I'll just dry it so you can see what it looks like all dry. And I'll take any more questions that pop in right now, and then we'll be
Colby Grant, are you planning on doing any oil painting tutorials anytime soon?
Yes, I do. I just got these new paints from Russia to try out, to review. So I'll do a tutorial with those because I like to do a painting first before I review a paint, just in case it's sometimes it's not apparent how good or how bad a paint is by just swatching it out. You need to actually paint with it. So those will be coming up soon. And it's a fairly inexpensive paint, I think, too. So if it ends up being awesome, then it doesn't cost an arm and a leg.
Random mosquito.
Oh.
It's like the last nice day of the year up here, and so they're all out again.
I am going to actually get that highlight out with an X-Acto knife. So I'm just going to just scratch a little highlight with an X-Acto knife. Nothing major. And that, I mean, that would still be a traditional watercolor if we didn't have the iridescent. If you use a gel pen, then not so much. But that's a way to get around it. I feel like the pupil should be a little darker, but there we go. Okay, so I think we're done. What do you think?
I think it looks good. People are loving it.
Good. Well, if you have any other questions, then please feel free to put them in the comments below. If you are looking for a year-long art inspiration class, check out Lifebook 2017. There's a link in the video description. I'll be teaching 2 segments on that. They're fantastic teachers. They're taking part Julie Faith and Balzer, Vicky Papianou, which is a mouthful of a name. She is a really excellent teacher. So many names. I have a whole list on my website, but check that out if you want a year's worth of art classes next year. Starts January 1st. It ought to be a lot of fun. And I want to thank jerry'sartorama.com for sponsoring today's live stream. You can find all the supplies I used today at Jerry's and all kinds of other stuff too. Thank you so much for joining me today, Sarah.
Yes, of course.
Thank you guys all for watching and asking questions and keeping the chat going, because it makes it so much fun when people show up. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Happy crafting.